Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Suzanna Camp. Suzanna is the co-author of The Entrepreneur's Faces, How Makers, Visionaries, and Outsiders Succeed. She is the editor-in-chief of Smartup.Life, a journalist specializing in emerging technologies. She was an early team leader at Wired Magazine and has also been on the staff of Macworld, PC World, and Outside Magazines. Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast, Suzanna Camp.
Thank you, Ed. Great to be here.
Well, first off, Suzanna, why do you do what you do?
Well, let's see. I'm a bit diverse, so I'll throw out a few things that I do and try to explain how they're all connected. I'm a tech journalist, an instructional designer, and co-author of the new book, The Entrepreneur's Faces. I co-wrote the book with Jonathan Littman. This is his 10th book and my first, so he was a great person to team up with, in addition to being my partner on some other collaborations. But let me tell you a little bit more about why I do what I do. I was at Wired Magazine early in my career, leading the team building community. That's the discussion boards and the chat rooms and the events. We had some great events back in the day. This was during the dawn of the web. So we were building one of the first websites in the world, and it was extremely formative for me and for everyone else there. I developed a deep love of technology and was also inspired by the other people who also brought their passion to that effort. But then I did not stay there forever. I moved on to a few other magazines after that, PC World and Outside, as you said. And then I took some time out of tech journalism to get a master's in education. And at that time, I was really focused on other issues like equity and policy and trying to make the system better for everyone. It's a large task. While I was immersed in that, I stuck my head up one day and realized that there was a tech renaissance going on with entrepreneurship. At this time, you could basically not walk down the street without overhearing people talking about their startup in San Francisco. This was when I met Jonathan Littman. So we started writing about it, writing about innovation and entrepreneurship for Smartup.Life. We were going to a ton of events, networking events, pitch nights, all kinds of startup things. And then we realized we wanted to write a book about it to tell the stories of real entrepreneurs, not a myopic Silicon Valley focus and not a hagiography of all the famous people. So we traveled to Europe, went to 14 different countries, interviewed hundreds of founders, and began to see that there were distinct types. So now what we've done with the book, The Entrepreneur's Faces, is tell the stories of entrepreneurs through the lens of their different types or archetypes, which I happen to know a lot about, but I won't get into that right now. We feel we've introduced a new take on entrepreneurship that gives people a human-centric framework that's different from some of the product-centric ones like Lean Startup. And so again, why I do what I do, I like to think that I'm giving people a new tool to help them succeed.
Well, you gave it away a little bit, but let me ask you this. So the book is called The Entrepreneur's Faces, and if you could succinctly, what's it about?
Well, it's about the entrepreneurial mindset and the different types of entrepreneurs who are going through the entrepreneurial journey. We've got 10 types. Some of the types are the outsider, who's someone who brings a beginner's mind to something, doesn't necessarily know the industry, but knows how to get in. And another type is the conductor. This is the platform builder, the systems operator, somebody like Mark Benioff of Salesforce. But also in our book, we tell the story of Carlos Muela, who's the food truck king in San Francisco. So it's not all about tech and also not all about the typical startup founders.
Yeah, I noticed that when you took real people, it wasn't, and I think you say this in the opening of the book. This isn't intended to be a Myers-Briggs type test for entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, you said, let's get real people and tell their stories involved in this journey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to pick up on that a bit, just back to the Myers-Briggs, I'm actually quite steeped in the study of archetypes. So my father was a Jungian scholar, who was very interested in those types, the 12 types that Jung presented: the jester and the sage, and the outlaw and the ruler. My mother, back to the Myers-Briggs, as you just pointed out, she loved that, and be so much that she became certified to give the test. So she would test it out on me. And as a teenager, I took the Myers-Briggs so many times, and what I was frustrated with was being pigeonholed into this introvert role, which of course I was, but I was always trying to trick it to become the extrovert. So we wanted to present something that kind of gave people options of being more than one type. I find that it's helps people to learn more about themselves, to know the types. That can be empowering, and it can help them to activate their entrepreneurial mindset, which we all kind of need right now with the pandemic. A lot of us need to kind of innovate our ways out of this jam that we're in.
And the book then follows these 10 stories through the journey that you've developed. Talk a little bit about the journey.
Yeah, so it's a 7-stage journey. We're sort of also applying a framework to that beyond just the archetypes, looking at the sort of standard paths that people take, which starts with the awakening. That's the first stage. That's where you kind of wake up to the idea that you want to implement, and you get excited. And the next stage is the shift. And the shift is where you actually start doing something, because, there's a lot of the time you can wake up to the idea, but then go back to sleep and you don't actually do anything. After that, there's the place where you kind of get your ecosystem, the test where the test comes later, sorry. The launch where you make it happen. Then the money, where you get the funding to make it real. The launch, the test, and then the scale. The early stages of this are all about energy and building momentum, and so that's where you really get into the differences between the types. The athletes are really great at getting going, and the outsiders are also really good. The evangelists in the beginning of the endeavor have their story already worked out, and they're selling the product before it even exists.
Sure. And Suzanna, we have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
Great question. Thank you. The historian and author Yuval Noah Harari is one of my heroes as a writer and aspiring futurist myself. First off, I find his writing just enthralling. He's so well versed in history, and he really knows how to talk about it. Even technically, he just has no bad sentences. And secondly, he is a visionary. This is one of our 10 types in the book. His vision of a transformative future is utopian and realistic at the same time. And I think it's more important now than ever before, mid-pandemic, as we face these sweeping global changes, to look to visionaries like Harari as guides, and be entrepreneurial, not just as individuals, but on the governmental and societal level, and really on a species level. We can take some of his prescriptions and start bringing them to life. For example, Harari talks about the future of work, reskilling the workforce when AI comes to take our jobs away from us. But with the virus, there are whole legions of people trained to work in industries that simply do not have room for them right now, or maybe even ever. I think of the airlines as an acute example of this. So let's be entrepreneurial and try to innovate our way out of the situation we're in, because we're not going to get anywhere with business as usual.
And lastly, Suzanna, how can somebody contact you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter, so you can look for me there, Suzanna Camp. And of course, I would encourage listeners to go to our website to find out how to get the book. And there you can take the diagnostic quiz that I built, where you can get a sense of your own type and see where that self-knowledge takes you. So the website is theentrepreneurfaces.com. It has links to Amazon, or you could just go straight to Amazon. The book is called The Entrepreneur's Faces: How Makers, Visionaries, and Outsiders Succeed.
All right, Suzanna Camp, co-author of The Entrepreneur's Faces. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Advice podcast.
Thank you, Ed. It was a great pleasure.
For more Sage Advice, visit and subscribe at sageadvicepodcast.com.